Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's TITOKMF. We are back here with another video. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the watch. That's right, an infrequent little series that we've been doing for a little bit now. Just VGC centric Pokemon. The idea of this series is what are some Pokemon that are not necessarily dominating the meta, or maybe might be even tier 2, maybe even tier 3 at times, that I feel that we need to really look out for in the VGC meta. So I'm going to give you guys a lowdown on this Pokemon, so because I believe you're going to be seeing it a lot more, and I think you should actually probably use it if you're not already, because I think whatever mons that I cover in this series are on the come up and will be vital parts of the format going forward. So once again, guys, this is the watch. This is completely my opinion. We're going to be going down builds, tips and tricks, stuff like that. So we're going to start, if you guys can tell by the wallpaper here, that's right, we're going to be talking about Rotom. That's right, Rotom, one of my probably top 3 favorite competitive mons ever, especially since I was really invested in 2014, where Rotom heavily dominated the meta as far as you could play a bunch of different Rotoms. Even Rotom Fan was viable at the end. And the the thing that got me the most excited when we switched over to 18 is that I was going to be able to play with Rotom again. This Pokemon is so unique, it's so fun, there's so many different things you can do with this mon, it's so versatile, and I think it's really good for the meta as a whole to have one Pokemon that can fulfill multiple different roles. It could be a tank, it could be a nuke, it could be a support. So in all of the forms except base have something to offer. Some are obviously better than others, and we're going to only cover 2 of them in this video. But let's get right into it. But the first thing, before we do anything, guys, we're going to head over and check out Rotom's stats here, okay? So Rotom's stats are actually pretty decent. We're gonna go ahead and look at base Rotom to start. So they're not particularly good, but you want the stats when you change. So if you guys aren't familiar with Rotom, if you guys don't know, once he changes forms, whatever form you're in, they all have the same stats. So see, if you guys look, it doesn't matter what form, Fan, Frost, Heat, Mow, or Wash, they all have the exact same stats as far as that. What's different about them is the typing. Now, Rotom at its base is an electric ghost type, which is really cool. I would like to see another mon with that typing that's a little bit more viable, and doesn't rely on forms. But you have Rotom Fan, which is an electric flying, kind of like Zapdos. Electric Ice, which is a very unique typing. Electric Fire, and which is one of the ones we're really going to focus on today. Electric Grass, and Electric Water. Now, the ability that it has, regardless of its form, is Levitate. And Levitate is one of the most well-rounded abilities in the game, especially for an electric type like Rotom. And one of the things about Rotom specifically is that it's a good and bad thing. You see, because it has Levitate, it's not affected by moves like Earthquake, so you can safely, even if you're playing Rotom Heat, which would normally do a ton of damage, you can Earthquake freely without having to worry about protecting or switching out or whatever. You're able to do that freely. The only bad thing is that it's in a format where you have all the Tapus, specifically Tapu Koko. It is not affected by terrain. So when you have Tapu Lele out, you're free to get faked out. So that's just something to watch out for. Rotom can get faked out in psychic terrain or any of those priority damaging moves because it is levitating. It is not touching the ground. Therefore, it can be affected by moves that would normally happen because it doesn't. Rotom does not get affected by any of the terrains because it's levitating, and that applies to any levitate Pokemon. So be on the lookout for that. But let's look at its stats real quick. So 50 base HP, that's really low. It's a very low base HP. But what it compensates for in that is that it has pretty good, rock solid special attack, defense, and special defense, and a pretty decent above average speed, I would say. enough speed where in Tailwind you're going to be outspeeding a lot of things, and even if you built Jolly max speed, you would still be fairly fast. You would be able to outspeed a lot, I would say about 60 to 70% of the things in the current meta right now if you were to max out in speed. But those defenses are really what's going to dictate Rotom as a Pokemon. Rotom has one of those things, although it has a very small HP pool, it's one of those Pokemon that it's because its defenses and its damage output is like, it's not negligible. You have to deal with it. Rotom is a threat even if it's building bulky, and some of these sets here are going to make Rotom even more of a threat. In addition, with the coming of Z moves, Rotom has become incredibly viable in my opinion, because a lot of the forms, like specifically Rotom Mo, that were not the strongest pre-Z crystals, now with Z crystals, Bloom Doom does an enormous amount of damage off of Leaf Storm. Now, one of the things you guys have to know about Rotom, if you're unfamiliar with this Pokemon, if you're a newer player, that each one of these mons changes form based on the move that it has. One of the slots that it has either has Hydro Pump if it's Rotom Wash, Leaf Storm for Rotom Mo, Overheat for Rotom Heat, Blizzard for Rotom Frost, and Air Slash for Rotom Fan. Now, these moves are incredibly strong. They're going to be on every single set because that's how you get the form, so you kind of have to have it on there. But none of these moves are bad, so it's not even like these moves are a burden. 9 times out of 10 you're going to have these moves on these mons anyway, because they're always stab moves and they're all pretty decent to very, very good moves. Specifically, we're talking about moves like Overheat, which are incredibly strong in the meta with Aegis Slash and Metagross, and even Air Slash is pretty good with the flinches, but we're going to get to that later. So we've gone over the stats here, we've gone over the ability, we've gone over the forms, we've gone over the mechanics of Rotom. So why does Rotom really fit in the meta? Well, it has to do with a couple of things. A, its move pool. B, its versatility, and its ability to place several roles. And C, its typing. And we're gonna break through all of that right now. So let's go ahead and just to show you guys real quick before we get started into the actual breakdown, the Rotom's stats on BattleSpot. This is one of 2 websites that I use to check. This is the other one, and I'll put all these links in the description below. Both these sites help me out a lot. So this is this is a Japanese beta site that Gabby Snyder sent me that she's been using. So I've been using this in addition with Pika Analytics. If you guys aren't familiar with this, or Pikalytics, excuse me, this updates. The thing is, I like this interface a lot more. In addition, that it has Pokemon Showdown as well as the global link in terms of usage. So right now, if you guys are looking, Rotom Wash has about a 2.8% usage. It's fairly low, but it's still in the top. It's in the monthly usage of 90k, which is pretty decent. Monthly rank is 45. It's on a okay amount of teams, but I expect this number to go up a lot by the end of the format, hence why I'm making this video. Rotom Wash, Rotom Heat are by far the most popular. Not far below that is Rotom, or very far below that, excuse me, at only 0.11% is Rotom Mo. But we're only going to focus on Rotom Heat and Rotom Wash for this video. So the 3 things that I said before, right? Its move pool, its versatility, and its typing. So when you're talking about Rotom, you're talking about a mon that has a lot of choices. This is one of the things that's so good about Rotom, is that it allows you to have choices. So we're only going to talk about 2 of those choices for this video to kind of keep this video on the shorter side, and we're already at the 9-minute mark, so we're going to get started here. Don't worry, the link to all of this will be in the description below. And sorry about that. Let's go ahead and move this over here. Okay, so we're talking about Rotom Heat and Rotom Mo. Rotom Heat and Rotom Wash. So let's start with Rotom Wash here. Rotom Wash is a water electric type, like I was saying. So it's pretty decent typing. It's going to compensate a lot for the weaknesses of the electric type, as well as to give it access to Hydro Pump, which makes it a little bit easier to hit those fire types that electric types don't necessarily struggle with, but it makes it a lot easier. It just does. And additionally, what's most important about this is it allows you to hit ground and rock types that most electric types have a little bit of trouble hitting. So Rotom's access to Hydro Pump is very, very good. So we're just going to, I made 3 separate sets here, EV and move sets. These aren't necessarily in any particular order. These are just to show you the versatility of these mons. So I've just added different moves and stuff like that. That way you can see what moves these Pokemon have. In addition to, I'm going to break down, I don't know the specifics of all of these EV spreads, but I know the general idea of it. So number 1, this is the most common set on Showdown, on Battle Spot. This is what we got here. We have Rotom Wash with a Citrus Berry. So you're proccing the Citrus Berry, getting your health back. You're incredibly tanky, so bulky. You're out here, you know, if we break this down to over here to level 50. So you're rocking 139 special attack, which is not something to laugh at. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to max HP on Rotom Wash, because again, remember, it's base 50 HP. It's very, very low, so you want to make sure you're going to have to put that HP investment just so you can get a usable amount of HP. And you don't need to put that much into special attack or special defense because it has base 107 that's pretty good. So you only need to put a little bit in. But for Rotom Wash, it's usually the bulkier of all the Rotom sets. So you're going to be running a little bit more supportive to that. It's going to be a little bit more of an anchor on your team. It goes very well with things like Salamence. It goes well with things like, it goes actually pretty well with Lando because you can Earthquake freely. It goes good with Tyranitar. A lot of things that this mon goes very, very well with in the meta right now. Obviously, Finny is a big one. So Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, Protect. In terms of move pool, Rotom Wash is probably one of the more limited ones in terms of the moves you're able to use because of its role. It's that 4th slot that you're really going to want to mess with. Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, Protector, probably the 3 things. It's more of a 1-slot mon in terms of the amount of different moves you're going to be able to have. So those 3 slots are pretty stable. The last one, you can have Will-O-Wisp here. And again, this is one of the more bulkier sets here. You're going to want to run Calm 9 times out of 10 on all your Rotom Washes. This one has a lot more special defense. That's just if you're really afraid of, if you need something to be a special defensive wall, if you don't have a Cresselia on your team for and you want a special defensive wall that's pretty good, Rotom Wash fits that very, very well. I also put Waterium Z on this specific build, not for any particular reason other than the fact that because you're running so bulky in the special defense and you're sacrifice some special attack, having the access to a lot of burst damage is really good. So Waterium Z is especially with all this rain going around, it's a pretty good 3rd mon to go along with your Swampert or your Pelipper / Politoed. So it's pretty good. But the other move that you can put on here is Ally Switch. You've been seeing a lot of that, you know, floating around early on in the meta. Ally Switch, a pretty gimmicky move, but still fairly good. I don't know necessarily how well it's going to do in a best of 3 format. I've yet to see enough of that to make an informed decision, but it does get access to Ally Switch if that's something you want to do. So this one is very specially defensive, and this one's a little bit of the same. What it does is that it's a little bit faster. If you guys look here, all these have 4 speed, 12 speed. This one's a little bit faster. It lets you outspeed a little bit of a lot of the other mons that are around this speed tier that wouldn't normally be able to outspeed. So that's pretty good. In addition to, you also get access to Electro Web, which again, for more speed control. So if you're not running Finny with Icy Wind, or if you're not running like Tailwind or something like that, and you want access to speed control, Rotom gets access to Electro Web, and that's all Rotom. So it's pretty good. And it's stab and it does damage. It has 95% accuracy, but it lowers the speed by 1 stage. So that's pretty good. It's like an electric Icy Wind essentially, and you get stabbed from it, unlike Finny, who doesn't get stabbed from the Icy Wind. It's pretty good. So Rotom Wash fit a lot of teams, especially in the meta, especially with all this rain going around. It's pretty good. The only problem with this is that it doesn't necessarily have a great way to do with mons like Aegislash, things like Metagross. It doesn't really do necessarily a great job with those kinds of mon. It does really well with Tyranitar, obviously, Stakataka, obviously, but you know, those steel types that are, you know, popping around all over the place, it doesn't really have an answer for that because it can't really hit it for anything super effective. It does, and a lot of these Rotom Washes are specially defensive, and Metagross Aegislash, Aegislash is built a lot of the time especially offensive, but it can be physical, obviously. Metagross obviously is physically offensive, so all that combined. But if you need some real damage, what we got here is Rotom Heat. Rotom Heat is the mod that I've been running. I'm really loving this mod in the meta right now. I'm running it on my team at the moment. It goes really well with a Zapdos Finny core that I'm running. I'm running Zapdos Finny core with Kangaskhan right now, and there are a lot of reasons why I love Rotom Heat right now. Number one is that Overheat with Fire MZ is very good, but it also gets access to Electrium Z, which it allows it to win matchups it wouldn't normally be able to win, because it can OHKO things like Finny. It can OHKO really tanky Politoads as well. Azumarill obviously can get the OHKO. So water mons that it would have normal trouble with before the Z crystals is going to allow this mon to really compete, which is amazing. The second thing is that Overheat can deal with Metagross, Aegislash, things that Rotoms haven't been able to hit before, or with any other form, excuse me. Rotom Heat can hit fairly well. Overheat's going to do an insane amount of damage, and on top of that, if you're running Fire MZ, you can get Fire MZ for the nuke. You don't get the special attack drop. Then you can run Overheat for the even more burst damage. So you get 2 turns of burst. It's really good. The EV set that I'm running here is pretty fast-ish. It's full max HP. Most of your Rotoms can be max HP. You want to be able to, however you decide to EV, it's really up to your discretion. Modest is probably going to be the one you're going to be leaning towards in terms of nature, because you want that damage output as well. And also the speed tier, it's going to be at 124, which is pretty good. It's going to be outspeeding a good amount of things. Going to be able to outspeed a lot of Boolus, a lot of those slower Lele's is going to be outspeed as well. Finny, possibly. If it's one of the bulkier, like Calm Mind Finnies, you might have the possibility of outspeeding that, which then plays into the Electrium Z, because you'll be able to pick up that OHKO more than likely. But what you really want here is to be able to, obviously the mons like Tyranitar, Stakataka, Landorus, those are the ones that are really struggling against Rotom Heat, or struggling for Rotom Heat. And I found Lando to be one of the more challenging matchups, because again, you don't get the Overheat's not going to do nearly enough. Stakataka is still going to take a decent amount from Overheat because it is a steel type, but Landorus is not going to take that much. And so I put Hidden Power Ice in my Rotom Heat to deal with that matchup. It's going to be able to live a Rock Slide, and then unless it's Assault Vest, it's going to be able to more than likely OHKO the really offensive Landoruses with Hidden Power Ice if you invest enough special attack and make it modest. So that's one option. Again, you have also a Thunderbolt, Overheat, Protect. Again, you're a 3-slot mon, but it's that 4th slot that allows you to play a lot with it. A lot is covered. One of the things about Rotom's move pool is that basically it gets everything that it needs in the first 3 slots, and then that 4th slot allows you to be creative and kind of make it your own. So you also get access to Volt Switch here, and again, this is max HP, basically, almost max special attack, and some speed, stuff like that. Then here is basically almost the same thing, just a lot more speed investment. As opposed to this one, which is a little bit more of a Trick Room kind of setup here. But you get Will-O-Wisp, Volt Switch, and Hidden Power Ice is 3 of my suggestions. It really depends on the composition of your team. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys like it. All the links to this, the link to this showdown team, quote unquote, these builds will be in the description below, as well as all the battle spot usage. Everything will be in the description below. If you guys have a mod that you think is on the come up, let me know. It might be on the next episode of the watch. Thank you guys for watching. I am out of here. Adios.